I'm Kirby Allison, back here in London, and one of the great bastions of bespoke tailoring, Haste Lachter. We've filmed a lot here. It's been an incredible journey, not just for me personally, for my sartorial evolution, but also I know for everyone that's been watching here on this channel. First with the double bespoke commission, Terry Haste, John Kent, all the way through the incredible dinner suit that I just took delivery of today. Of course, the shirt that you did, Stephen, that was just absolutely magnificent. So I thought today we'd mix it up a little bit, sit down, and actually have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about the incredible stories behind Terry, Stephen, Suyamba, about your beginnings and just about the history of this incredible craft. So thank you so much. Thanks for your time. And, don't look like you've got such a long face. I mean, this is,
Steve can't
that's all you need is
it's difficult to remember that
more interruptions from work, I mean, one of the things I'm in constant awe and amazement is, your ability as a team to work through disruption. Because there is always someone coming in, cameras, customers, fittings, people coming in to just chat. But this is a proper tailor's workshop. I mean, these are your boards, you're cutting and adjusting and drawing patterns and doing fittings. And I guess sometimes, unlike some of the bigger houses where that might be out of sight, it's all here for customers to see.
Yeah, we get the Friday afternoon club as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Although it was yesterday, wasn't it?
That was yesterday, yeah.
It was the Wednesday afternoon club.
Monday, Wednesday and Friday now.
Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Are we never going to get any work done?
Nope.
I mean, think about how bad it would be if there was a minibar. I mean, nothing would end.
In fact, one of the customers makes his own tea.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, just right at home.
Yeah.
He made us tea yesterday as well.
Yeah, that's very kind. Well, if they're going to stick around, you might as well, put them to some kind of work.
We can't have a mini bar here anyway, not with, somebody. We won't mention that. She'll be on it all day.
One of the things I'm struck by is just the richness of this tradition, right? And I think in so many ways we see this illustrated here. I mean, it's an oral tradition. We had the opportunity to film with John. He and you worked very closely. Suyamba's joined the team. And this is an oral tradition that is passed on from generation to generation through practice, right? It's not learned in school. It's not picked up in a book. It has to be practiced. And so I thought it'd be fun and interesting to sit down and, maybe Terry and Stephen, to have you share a little bit more about how it is you begun and how you found yourself in this trade.
Okay, you're right. Where should we start? Me?
Yeah, from the beginning.
John Collier.
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to be a tailor. So for me, it was very simple.
Really?
It was just finding a way into tailoring, which was I got a lucky break. The guys at school just said, you'd be a plumber, be a plasterer, be an electrician. But I didn't really want to do that, although parts of my family all did that. And my dad was coming home from work one day and there was an article in the paper, I think the Evening Standard, with Manny Silverman at Mossbros talking about tailoring. So he phoned him up and he was really, really nice. We went down and see him on the Saturday morning and they obviously didn't have a tailoring department. It was all made to measure or ready to wear. So he phoned Fred Lintott up, who was the managing director of Huntsman at the time, and we all trooped over to Huntsman. There's me, this little...
How old were you?
15.
15.
15.
My goodness.
1971.
Wow.
15.
And your father was with you?
Yeah, and my mum.
And your mum?
Yeah, we all went there, yeah.
Wow.
Family trip.
And his uncle, and his grandfather.
And the dog.
And Cindy's the dog.
Yeah.
So we went over. It's quite funny, really, because, Fred Lintott was brilliant. We were there for a long, long time. He wanted me to go away for a year and then come back at 16 because they wanted to send me to college, because they wanted me in the cutting department. But my accent's a little bit sort of raw, shall we say, and he wanted to send me for elocution lessons, which, I still find funny now.
Really? I mean, it's amazing.
And you can obviously tell I went for those lessons. But I didn't really want to wait a whole year. So as we come out of Huntsman, we walked across to Anderson & Shepherd's, just walked in and got an interview there for the following week. Mm-hmm. So again, my mum and dad trooped me up again. This little boy sitting there, little 15-year-old, about Suyamba's height.
Thank you.
And they offered me a job. It was double the amount that Huntsman were offering me as well, so I was quite happy.
Wow.
I started in the trousers department at Anderson & Shepherd with a guy called Terry Haste. Mm-hmm. And it was brilliant. We were downstairs, out the way. The jacket department was upstairs. And I remember one morning the trimmer coming, Danny the trimmer, who, he looked really old to me at the time. He's probably younger than I am now, but he just looked so old. He used to come into work, bowler hat, overcoat, velvet collar, umbrella always over his arm. And he said to me, one day, son, you'll be wearing a bowler hat. I don't think I'm ever going to be wearing a bowler hat, not with this hair. Yeah, it was good there. I used to get called in every 5 minutes, get a haircut. Don't wear yellow socks, wear trousers longer, because it was that sort of 1971 was that era.
Well, I mean, the 1970s was in some ways transitionary. I mean, a place like Anderston still probably felt like it was the 1940s.
Well, I don't think it was that new.
Yeah,
No,
that's right.
we still had sheepskin slippers in the window and sheepskin rugs in the window and little rugs and little sheep, selling these
Really?
sheepskin things.
Okay.
So I was there for about a year, and I didn't want to get stuck in the trouser cutting department. So I found a job just along the road next door to Tommy Nutter, actually, a guy called Chapman, who's unfortunately died a long time ago. And I went there, although when I gave my notice in, they did say to me, we're going to put John Malone, who just retired from Anson Shepherd, into the trouser cutting department. And I was going to go up into the jacket cutting department, but as far as I was concerned, it was too late. It was over at that stage. So I left and went there, small man, and stayed there
You're
a
at
while.
16 at this point.
I
How old are
was
you?
16 then, yeah, probably just coming up to 16.
Can't imagine.
May have been just over. Stayed with Chapman for a long time. It was great working there. It was just one man, his wife, and the alteration tailor in the back. Small little rooms. They're quite small, those rooms in Savile Row. And then I got poached by one of the cutters from Anderson Shepherd, left and went to Denman and Goddard.
Okay.
And he poached me from there, and I went round to Denman and Goddard, which was on Sackville Street.
Okay.
And that,
So right here.
Yeah, just here, a bit further along.
Wow.
And that was really going back in time again, because Chapman was quite modern, and going back in time. And they got taken over or merged with another company called Corders and Bright on Hanover Street. And I literally just got married, and I was 20 now.
Wow.
1975.
Still no taller.
70, no, still the same
probably
height.
looked about 14.
Yeah. So I just got, literally the week I got back from my honeymoon, I was made redundant from them because they moved premises. It was tiny little premises. And that's how I got into Hawes and Curtis, someone with Collard Parsons, who are now owned by Scabau,
Okay.
cloth merchants. And they found me a job with Hawes and Curtis. And that's how I hit it off straight away with John Kent.
And that's where you and John first encountered
That's
one
where,
another.
and then Stephen joined Hawes and Curtis,
Okay.
but he was around the shirt department, which was just off Bond Street, and we were around in Dover Street.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant, really. I used to send him round as a spy. We were owned by Turnbull and Asser then,
Okay.
and he was come round as a spy to make sure we were working. But
Oh, is that right?
They weren't, so I couldn't tell them anything.
it was great fun. I mean, we were the Royal Tailors. We just saw everybody. Everybody used to come into the
I mean, because
store.
Haas and Curtis was a big
Yeah.
tailoring firm, and today they aren't what they were then.
No,
I mean,
no,
then it was a
it's-
proper bespoke tailoring
it
house.
was, and
that was
shirt making
prestigious.
house,
It was one of
yeah.
the most famous. It really was.
I knew it was great working there. John and I had a great repertoire.
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 okay,
That's a
there we
big
go.
word for me, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
One day I'll be able to spell it as well.
A was a big word for you.
It's a massive word for me, especially a capital one. So we stayed there for a while, and things went a little bit sour there. And I went to the Savoy Tailors Guild, which was right next door to Savoy Tailors, and still looks incredibly young. I had to grow a moustache to try and make myself look a bit older because I always look like this.
You grew out a beard, No,
No, do
that.
Yeah, that's right. Mustache.
We'll show you the photo later.
I stayed there for a while, which it was really good working there because they liked me there, fortunately. Mrs. G, they're owned by Cecil G Company. And if Mrs. G liked you, you was fine. If she didn't like you, you were out. But luckily enough for me, she liked me. But I then finally went to Tommy Nutter. He kept coming in for me and asking me to join him on the second Nutter. It wasn't Nutters then, it was Tommy Nutter. So I joined Tommy, and I mean, that was a brilliant time. I mean, it was just like a who's who every day.
So are we in the
working
80s
at
now?
Tommy.
Is this...
We're
Still
in the
late
80s
70s.
now. It was the mid-80s, mid-80s, getting older. And I was only 30 I was 30 when I joined Tommy Nutter. And stayed there till Tommy died. He died in 92.
Okay.
And I then joined Hackett. They'd just been taken over by a big company and they wanted to build the brand. So I joined Hackett. And again, had a great time there. Stayed there for about 7 years and then went to Huntsman. Again, I was poached by Huntsman a couple of times. And so I went round to Huntsman, which I spent 6 years with Huntsman. And then went on my own and John had given up because he'd been ill.
Okay.
And Stephen was trying to keep his business going a little bit. And I used to see Stephen quite a lot because he used to come up.
You were trying to keep John's business going?
Yeah, I was doing it. Well,
You were cutting suits?
We had, yeah.
You were?
I was lucky enough to see the Duke of Edinburgh 2 or 3 times. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. He told him never to come back again.
He said, yeah.
Get out of my place.
There's a story
Who let
to
you
that. There is a story to that.
And then, Stephen said, I've got a couple of problems. I said, well, I'll sort it out. So we sorted it out. And then Stephen and I got together. Then we heard John wanted to come back. So
And then that's
we
when you
arranged all that. And then that's when we all got together again.
Yeah. The rest is history, right?
The rest
Three
is history.
Musketeers.
Yeah.
The Three Musketeers, as we were called by everybody else in the trade.
So whenever, you were just beginning, who was it from whom were you learning? How was it you were taught? Back, I say back then, back in the day.
Back in the days when I was a lad.
Yeah. But, the question is often asked often in the channels, how does one become a bespoke tailor? Here you are now, one of the great bespoke tailors of London, cutting, at the highest level. You've got an incredible clientele. You've got a few Americans and Texans that you very generously allow through the door.
We don't let Texans in, do we?
Barely. We need all the help we can get. And now it's, you look back and you probably can't even see that far back, right?
I can't remember it back because they take the mick out of me all the time, Molly and Suyamba, because I say before, it sounds quite...
But it's easy to
sounds
forget
funny,
that,
really. That,
that...
I used to make clothes for my action men when I was young.
Did you really? Yeah. Is this where the idea for the dolls came? Right here? Did Terry actually do this and it wasn't
No,
Samba?
they done it while we were in America once. So
You were on holiday in July.
I was on holiday,
For the Barbie premiere.
I thought it was a voodoo doll.
Oh, that too.
Probably.
Yeah, the one in pink is
You poke it
right.
in.
in that one. So Stephen was a bit freaky. We had to take his glasses off because he looked like something out of a horror movie.
Thank you. I still
Mind
do.
you, looking at him, he still does.
What's changed?
But yeah, I knew what I wanted to do. I was really lucky.
But even before that point at 15, with your parents being in a different trade, how is it, do you even know what tailoring was? Was it that eponymous at the time where...
Well, we all wore clothes. Even in those days, we had clothes.
Yeah, well, I wore clothes too, and I didn't even know that there was such thing as a suit,
But it's just, we was really lucky I saw the article in the paper.
But you said that prior to seeing the article, you knew that you
I knew from.
But when was it?
early
When
days.
was that moment where you even
from early
knew it
days.
existed?
Was it because
Far
everyone
back
used
as
to
I
wear
can
suits all the time? Is that why it was just tailoring was
Probably
everywhere?
not so much then. It was still, I just loved it. In the early days of, I was never going to be a skinhead, which is what we had then those days because, cut my hair.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
It's not a wig, by the way.
It
Thinks
would be a
it is, but it's
travesty.
not a wig.
There's a theme on that side of the divide here. Stephen and I are quite struggling in the hair department, and you and Samba.
Yeah. My poor son as well has got less hair than the pair of you. He really hates it. But he does fight back with me, though. I don't know how it came about. It's just from as far back as I can remember, I knew I wanted to come into tailoring.
That's interesting.
Are you just trying to tell us that you're a know-it-all? Is that what it is?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Yeah. What about you, Stephen? So.
Oh, you're still here?
I nearly fell asleep during listening to you.
About 4 times.
But one of the things that's interesting is how your paths crossed seemingly several times in your career, and then, somehow, I guess through...
I got into it by default, I think.
Was your father a shoemaker?
Although my grandfather was a Savile Row tailor and he had a shop across the road, and there's a picture at home of him, and I didn't know any of this. I didn't know, but then he died quite early. I knew he'd become a tailor, but he retired because he had bad angina. But he had letters from very famous people, like Yehudi Menuhin, the
Did he?
famous violinist. Yeah, I've got the letters.
Because we used to make for you, didn't
Yeah,
you? At
and that was,
at
and the
Hawes
funniest
Curtis.
thing was when I was at Hawes and Curtis, and I said to Yehudi, do you remember Louis Barkin? And he said, of course I do. He said he made for my father as well.
Nobody ever forgets their tailor.
So that was very nice. But I thought I was doing stand-up.
Stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
That
And
explains
the
it all.
act-
Still are. I've seen your shirts.
Yeah.
It-
and the
we know
act-
how that worked out.
Whew, the act was doing so great, I had to find a job. And I did. I came up to London one day because I was living in Southend, which is 50 miles away by the seaside. And I was playing all these dodgy clubs and everything, but I didn't really want to. I realised then.
Truth comes out.
That I
The
wasn't.
truth comes out.
I
Was
wasn't
that the
going to
London
be.
Palladium, was
yeah,
it? And
I wasn't going.
Her
No,
Majesty's
the only
Theatre?
time I was going to be at the London Palladium was walking past it. So I came up and I got a job with Turnbull and Nasser, who owned Hawes and Curtis.
Okay.
And they put me in the shirt makers, which is on Burlington Gardens, which is not there now. It used to be. It's now Ferragamo. And it was fantastic. From day one, I loved it. 4 days in, the present Duke of Kent walked in off the street and started chatting to me as though he'd known me for ages and he wanted to get some shirts and stuff. And I knew then it was just great fun. Then they moved the tailors round into Burlington Gardens and sold off Dover Street. So I was 3 months older than Terry. I'd come in, 3 months later.
Yeah, later,
I'd come in 3 months later to Hawes and Curtis.
Much older though, right?
Yeah, no, I was much older, yeah, and wiser.
Well, I don't know about that.
John came in, Terry came in, all the tailors came in, and we have some fun.
Well, this is, I think, a theme that is consistent amongst
I don't
the
think you
tailors
did
I
any
speak
work.
to. Is that
That's what made it so fun.
We had some great fun. That's the only reason probably why I'm still working now, is that it's very enjoyable.
Did you say working?
All right, okay, well,
least you said
coming in every morning.
Exactly, that's better.
this is the story he gives his wife?
It was you learnt as you went along,
Yeah.
and if you were interested in it, you were just like a sponge. And I loved it. I learnt from anyone I could, even Terry.
We all sort of hit it off.
Yeah.
Stephen, we all stayed friends anyway, because Stephen came into Tommy Nutter making shirts. He came into Huntsman
he
making
got me
shirts.
the job. He got me when I went out on my own. I got headhunted for Tyrac, which was a multi-corporation, lots of shops and everything, and I was a buying director. And it was very good. I went all around the world. And
Sounds very corporate.
It was very corporate, but it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot how to deal with bigger business, because Hawes and Curtis was quite a small, insular business. Great fun, but I didn't really want to proceed with it. And John said to me he wanted to leave Hawes and Curtis and start off on his own. So in 1986, I, with some help from Mrs. Avery, who was a fantastic cloth merchant in Coach and Horse's Yard, she helped me. She gave me some pattern books, and I sorted out some production. And John and I started in Kingley Street above the Miranda Club.
And you've been doing ready-to-wear shirts ever since?
Go off someone very quickly.
So he's back to his roots then, stand
Yeah.
up. He went on before the strippers. He's now
Yeah,
working
I
in
did.
over a top of a
I
stripper.
did. I was working over the strippers now. And
They need shirts too.
and that was great fun. We with John's connections, because he had
I mean, legendary
huge,
John.
he had a huge private business, and that's the only way he could go in the end. He couldn't stay with Hawes and Curtis.
I mean, when you say private business, do you mean that he, even while at Halls and Curtis, had a separate private business on the side? Or just that in many cases, a tailor has such strong relationships with their clients that in some ways they don't
Strong
care where you're working,
relationship.
they follow
he
you.
had lots of customers who wanted him to go out on his own.
Yeah.
They
Lots.
become
They became
friends.
friends.
Friends, yeah.
That's
and
how
still
it-
are now. We
how it
still see
happened.
them.
And some of the customers now that Terry and I have got go back 40 years with us.
Yeah.
It's,
amazing.
you know...
Well, the last time I was in here, I mean, there was a gentleman who was right at home, quite literally. And, you know, he had come around because of his father.
Yeah.
You know, the one that
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
Yeah,
you
then
know,
we get grandsons.
likes to, you know, burst into the dressing rooms, you know, the voyeur.
And John and I decided with another tailor at the time, Henry Rose, we wanted to get out from the workrooms in Kingley Street, and we took number 11 Old Burlington Street, the basement, underneath James and James. They were our landlords.
Mm-hmm.
And James and James was one of the old firms. Yeah. And that's where our businesses grew. John was given the royal warrant
For the Duke of Edinburgh.
for the Duke of Edinburgh.
Which is pretty incredible given the fact that he was
It was not only
kind of by
incredible,
himself, right?
It was not only incredible, it was after 2 years, which was very unusual. Normally it's 5 years, but
the Duke didn't care, he said. Yeah.
I think at the time, the valet said, "Why don't you apply for it?" More or less saying, "Well, you know, I think you'll be all right." And then it happened. We got the royal warrant. We put it on the window.
Bob's your uncle.
Yep, and everything moved from there. We had...
How long ago was that? I mean, how long had John had?
I think that was 1987.
He had the royal warrant for
80,
almost
88,
40
87,
years?
88. Yep.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, the
only just lost
gentleman
it.
who used to sign the royal warrant, Sir Brian McGrath, was a customer of ours as well. And I think
go.
it was Sir Brian who helped it move it along
Yeah.
quite quickly. And we just went from there. John, we moved to Stafford Street, which we were in, 8 Stafford Street, which we were there for ages. We were there for a long time. And when they wanted the lease to go up to a ridiculous amount.
What, £20 a week?
At least that, yeah. 25, I think it was.
Was it as much as that?
Well, it was one of those shops where you wipe your feet on the way out. It wasn't exactly...
Have you ever
very,
seen that shop? Stafford Street. It's opposite. Is that little
Still there, the building?
sandwich bar
still
still?
there.
It's tiny.
It is
I mean, tiny.
It
Tiny,
really
tiny.
is
Tinier
tiny.
than this.
Yeah, it really is tiny.
Where Max is working, that's about the size of the whole shop.
No kidding.
So it's quite big then.
We had a downstairs, and the basement was like... It was a mess. It was like...
Was the basement large? You could work in the basement,
No,
but
it wasn't large at all. And the toilets were outside under the road. There were vaults, and the toilets were in the vault. And when we originally bought the shop, we had to reline the vaults with membrane that made it damp-proof because there was so much damp. We bought it from a tailor called Terry Hammond, who was, again, one of Hawes and Curtis' old tailors, and he'd had the shop for ages. And there was a film of water out the back.
That was Steve, a little bit incontinent.
Yeah.
Yeah, still is.
And that's how it is. And then John and I went to move into Norton's because at the time, Nick Granger, who owned Norton's, was looking desperately for someone, and we wanted to get out of Stafford Street, and we gave up our lease. And we got into Savile
I thought
Row.
the lease ran out, or did it?
The lease ran. Yeah, they wanted us. They tried to force us to go there again because it wasn't the type of shop you could just easily get rid of. And we got a very good deal from Norton's. And then Patrick Grant took over Norton's. John wasn't particularly well, so in 2010, I think.
2010. Well, I think you and I got together in late 2009, wasn't it? And then John came on board 2010.
We all got together. And
the rest is history.
Been great fun ever since.
What was it like learning back then? I mean, because it was a different era.
Oh, totally
And-
different. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, were they eager to train you? Were they?
Yeah, Andersons were very good. I went to college 3 nights a week at London College of Fashion, so you did cutting Monday, tailoring Tuesday, and textiles and design on Thursday, where you could just fall asleep. So that was quite good, that one. But the cutting and tailoring was really good. And Anderson's never paid for all that then.
Okay.
So it was good. I mean, unfortunately, the degrees now, the tailoring cut. Did you go to tailor? You didn't go. You was at Greenwich, weren't you?
Say again?
I can hit you in a minute.
No, I went to LCF, but I think the courses have all changed now. I did the Bespoke Tailoring course there.
Yeah, but it's nowhere near the same as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Well,
I think
back
it
there
was a
as well.
lot easier in those days because there were tailors and really good tailors. They were.
I used
they
to
were,
go up into the workshop every night
Yeah.
and learn more tailoring.
And when you say that, what do you mean?
I used to go up, work with one of the tailors, one of the sewing tailors, because I wanted to do the whole thing. I didn't just want to do cutting, I wanted to actually be
So
able
you
to
learned
make
construction as well?
So,
Making,
yeah. Terry Haste, who used to make trousers, were very good. And the rest was pretty okay, but it wasn't until I got to John, when I was with John, and John was a great teacher. I learnt so much with John,
Yeah.
because you had to learn quick with John. He'd tell you so much.
he talked very quickly.
miles an hour.
I used to say to him when he's teaching people, I said, John, that's too much information. They can't remember all that. It's impossible.
He had a great eye, fantastic eye.
It's brilliant.
Because John, I mean, he started. I mean, when did John start?
He
Because
was
that's
17, wasn't it?
About,
yeah, but what's 17? But when would that
about
have been?
62, 63, I think.
The 1960s?
Because I think Ian Fallon had started in 58, 59, and he was
Oh, did
older
he?
than John, yeah.
Yeah.
He was 4 years older than John. So it would have been about...
John was working in East London, though, wasn't he, in Aldgate?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
he worked in Bethnal Green Road at one point,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then he joined, again, a company on Savile Street.
But going back to what it was like to learn, I mean, you know, you were at the London College of Fashion taking night classes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, was there a formal program or was it just, you know, you just slowly worked your way up? They beat it into you?
To be honest, it's exactly the same as it is today. You just work with the cutter, and then the cutter throws you in the deep end, and you know, the idea is you watch as things go along. And when I said to Suyamba the other day, it was really nice watching her fit, because now she's doing things that I do in the fitting without me saying to her, you should be doing that.
And so this is, I guess, where the apprenticeship or the time is important, because, I mean, is it such that you just have to be exposed to it and kind of soak it in? And at one point, I mean, Suyamba, let us know from your experience, you just find that, you know, you've sat there seeing it and kind of doing it in small bits for so long that at some point it just comes together and you really probably don't even know when that happens.
You
It
don't
just
notice
happens.
it coming together. What you've got to remember is a set of measurements can be virtually the same. Your measurement may be very similar to my measurements. And then it comes to a figuration. That's where the real work comes into it, is finding figuration. Figuration is so important. That's more important than the measurements. You know, some people, we say, we had time recently, didn't we? We just said, all we need is chest, waist and seat, your inside leg measurement, and we just want a picture of you, see what you look like.
If you remember to take the measurements.
Yeah, someone forgot, didn't they? Yeah.
Forgot which part.
You've got to take some measurements, trouser measurements the
Yeah.
other day.
You could go off of the picture.
Close
You've
enough
got the
for
waist.
basic
You had the
fitting?
waist and seat, so
Yeah, you know, you just fill in the
waist and
blanks.
seat.
That's what fittings are for anyway.
I can't wait for that fitting. That should be next week.
I'm not even here for it. I'm going to be in Italy.
I've got to do the fitting.
Yeah.
haven't I?
I actually said to Molly, please let me know how it goes.
I'll get Molly to fit them.
I think last year when it was a runaway freight train of weight gain,
Yeah.
you know, the one time that the trousers shrunk whenever you were pressing them.
Yeah, he
I
did.
think,
Yeah.
I think
Oh.
Terry.
It's that cheap cloth we
I think
use.
Terry sent Molly in. It was like, Molly. I mean,
Seriously? What do you call
You notice
this?
I blamed her as well.
yeah, that's right.
There you
Didn't
go.
you cut these, Molly? And she was like, nope, it was Suyamba.
Oh, she's not here, so we can blame
Yeah,
her.
I wasn't
no
there,
problem.
was I?
Yes, configuration is important, but
Yeah, when people stand in a fitter and you say, you know, Stephen takes a picture of all his customers just to prove to his wife that he's been at work, really, that's all it is.
Of course.
And you see them stand up in the mirror. The minute they stand in the mirror, they go,
Yeah. You have to tell them, don't stand like a soldier. Relax. Because you can get someone who's very upright. Most women are very upright. But you get people like me who are round-backed, working with this lot. And, you know...
well, you really
It's
learn a lot about
different-
yourself in a tailor
Yeah.
shop. You know, drop
well,
right,
we've all
stoop
got
shoulder.
sloping shoulders.
Yeah.
Apart from
Not me.
Suyamba, she's got square shoulders. You
I
see,
win.
then she's got, see the bones there poking forward.
Forward bones.
There's all things like that causes problems. And Stephen's,
Don't.
Yeah,
We won't
and there's
talk about it.
probably an infinite number of different combinations
Yeah.
of. I mean, you've got your. I mean, there's rules, I suppose, but like,
Yeah,
where does
you
that
stick- yeah.
stop? And you just have to start using your intuition and experience.
Well,
and
it's-
then where does that end? And you just start guessing.
well, I mean, that's...
Does the guessing ever end?
We'll ask Stephen that one in a minute with the guessing. But
Okay.
yeah, you start with your basic pattern and the traditional way of doing it and the correct way of doing it, and then you start doing the alterations from that.
Okay.
So you would then drop the shoulders, pass up the back, give it more back balance, shorten the back balance, give it more over the hips. All things like that come into it, but you've got to start with the basic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you've got no framework to work
And so
from.
does that framework get you 80% there, or is it 90, or is it
Probably
halfway?
Probably about 80%.
80?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's where the fitting process.
Yeah, comes into it.
And then I guess also, I mean, is it experience also where you can anticipate some of the things that you would encounter in the fitting, but then integrate that into the pattern before you?
But it's different.
Samba's smiling over here. She's smirking.
From
She's
a
like,
tailoring
everything he's
perspective.
saying, none of it is true.
No, I was just thinking about when people say, make it smaller because I'm going to lose weight, and then we anticipate that the opposite is going to happen.
We've also got several different, coat makers, and they've all got their own little quirks. They do things slightly differently. You see the difference between Molly's trouser patterns and Suyamba's trouser patterns. They're just slightly different. You can see the differences with them. And they only got to take a slightly bigger seam. Just take 1 millimetre of extra on the seam. If you took it on, 10 seams, that's nearly 3 millimetres.
You had to think about that, didn't you?
So you have to think, and some tailors work the chest up a little bit more than others. So if someone wants a flat chest, then they've got to give it to the tailor who makes a flat chest. Someone's a big chest, vice versa. Yeah. So you have to, all those sort of things come into it. And some people still want that Tommy Nutter look, the square pagoda type shoulder. And it's not all my jacket makers can do that. A couple of them can do it.
Yeah.
And we work from a basic pattern and then.
Yeah. Samba, how's it been for you learning? I mean, with these guys.
Really good. I mean, the sign makers are going to be here next week, so.
The sign maker?
Yeah.
Putting the. Well, I mean, with John retiring, everyone shifted down. You've actually got a proper board now.
Yeah.
It's done you a huge favour, hasn't it, John retiring in a funny way?
Well, yes, what you said about being thrown in the deep end, you just have to learn quick, and that's it.
And keep a good humor, good sense of humor about it.
I think that's what helps us cope with the pressure and volume of work, really. Just that we can have a laugh while we're focusing.
Because it is a lot of work. I mean, I had a small experience in college. I took a costume design class in tailoring, right, because I was interested in tailoring. And one of the things I was really struck by is that you can't rush the process.
No.
Right? There's no kind of cheating your way through it. Doesn't matter how, being good at what you do, of course, is important, but it's not like so many things where, you can really be that much more efficient than the next person and save time. I mean, you have to do the work.
You've got to put the work in. If you don't put the work in, you're not going to be knowing what you're talking about at the end of the day.
Yeah, there are no shortcuts.
Yeah. What's been the most challenging part for you, Samba?
Not murdering all of my colleagues Monday to Friday. That's the most challenging part.
Yes.
I think I think when you study, it's really structured. As we were talking about earlier with the way Terry was learning, is that you, especially, for example, the way John taught, is that you learn in dribs and drabs. So your notebook will go from sleeves to trouser to rise. Mm-hmm. So it's all chock-a-block, and it's putting it all together to practice. But I guess that's why we go over our notes outside of work, and then we collate them, and then it just sort of adds as extra sort of revision. Yeah. But it's just, I guess the way you learn it is just so random. You never know what you're going to pick up from the day. Yeah. And then how has it been, for the majority of your time here, you had both John and Terry. Were there differences in kind of, who was better? Who was it that was the better teacher? Well, seeing as Terry pays my wages now, he's the best. Yeah, I think He was mainly under me, wasn't he, really? Yeah. Two angles, but... Yeah, because you both show me different ways, like his trousers striking, yours striking, and then John's backs are cut differently to Terry's back slightly. So it's nice to compare them side by side, because, say, for some figuration, you'd use one approach and then... Because there is a different... every tailor does have their own approach. It's the same John and I work the same system. Okay. So it's the same trouser system. My trouser system is a system John taught me back in the 70s. Just minus the sellotape. Minus the sellotape, yeah. John loved his sellotape. But even through our experience with the double bespoke commission, we ended up with two very different suits. Yeah. Right. Different coat makers, you see. That's the difference. Oh, it was just the coat makers. Yeah. I wanted to give you a coat maker that was different to John's coat maker. Same pattern, though? Same pattern. No, different patterns. They're different patterns. But I actually put my pattern on John's of yours. Strikingly similar? They were very, very close. We're talking about tiny, tiny bits different. 3 millimetres. Yeah, those seam allowances. 3 millimetres, yeah.
What's been the most surprising bit for you, Suyamba? I mean,
She's still here.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
so,
That is surprising.
Yeah.
No, I
To
always
us
thought
all.
that I would go into fashion, but then I think when I learned about the industry and how awful it is for the people in it and the environment and just at every stage,
How
tailoring.
awful?
How awful, yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just exploits everyone and everything, doesn't it, really, most of it. But tailoring is the opposite. It's like you make stuff to last.
Oh, I
You
thought
have
she
a-
was talking about tailoring.
No,
I was like, don't let the dirty secret out.
She talks very quietly.
Is that too quiet? Should I start
No.
again? Or
Don't
really?
ask her
you're
about
Why do you,
flat hunting.
why do you think I had to get hearing aids?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I moved on to tailoring, because it's like you make things properly, you learn how to fit, and I thought that if you can cut and fit really well, you can make anything. And it's also made to last, and you've got direct relationships with your customers, with the fabric merchants, the reps, and everything. It's just a lot closer, and the
Well, there
quality
is a
is different.
wholesomeness to it, right? That I think
Yeah, and
is easy to lose sight of. I mean, the sustainability, the durability,
Yeah,
the
and I think
value,
it's,
the relationships.
It's great in our trade. You see things you would never see in a lot of trades. I mean, we've been to the most fantastic houses and met everybody from kings down to
People from
the normal
Texas.
people from Texas.
What are some of the stories? I mean, as you look back, I mean, one of the things that's evident to me, I mean, at least from this crew, is how much fun you've had over the years, right? I mean, I guess you don't go into tailoring because you want an easy job. It's hard work.
No,
right?
it's very
You go
difficult.
into it because you love it. And ultimately, I think, from what I've seen, you also love the people with whom you have the privilege of working. I mean, not just, your colleagues, but maybe even your clients,
Yeah, we like to. Yeah,
with a few exceptions.
we have to like our clients. I think it helps if you like them. Makes a hell of a lot
Yeah.
of difference.
But what are some of the anecdotes? I mean, now kind of looking back, I mean, we've got Suyamba, who's, kind of in, the beginnings of her career, right? And then we've got you gentlemen that are at the top, having done this
You
for
was
so
about
long.
to say at the end of your career.
I was waiting for it. The end.
At
What
the
was the
top.
song you said Tommy Nutter used to play?
As you look back and kind of think of some of those just incredible moments, or some of those moments where you wanted to murder someone. I mean, what are they that, that give this career so much texture?
Yeah, there's lots of moments where you want to murder someone.
Yeah, and there's probably more of those.
every day.
Just the general fun. It doesn't have to be famous people. It can be just general normal customers, and they can make you laugh or something goes wrong. We had a guy in Hawes and Curtis called Ronnie Wakefield.
No, you shouldn't touch his names. I
He's
don't know what
dead.
you're going to say.
He's dead. He's dead. He died a long
Hello,
time
John.
ago. A long time ago, and he was.
That's just what his wife told him.
He was no. This guy didn't have a wife. He was very prone to get drunk, very early in the morning, and he'd come in, and you could smell it from 50 yards away. He lived in Chelsea, and he used to go and do shopping. They allowed, when we were working for Hawes and Curtis, Friday morning he was allowed to go to Berwick Street Market and get all the vegetables and everything for customers he knew.
Yeah.
Well, one day Ronnie came in, and he could be very offhand with people. He was quite camp, which was fun, but he was, thank you, and but he could be very offhand. And one day these two handsome guys came in, very tanned, very smart.
Must have been John and myself.
No, it definitely wasn't you. And he said, yes. And they came in and they said, we'd like to look at some ties. He goes, they're over there. He didn't even look at them. He just said, they're over there. Just were very polite and said, okay, thank you very much. And they picked out some ties and put them on a glass tabletop that we had. And he said, which ones do you want? They said, well, we'd like them all. He said, oh. He said, do you want a bag? I said, yeah. Yes, please, if you would. It's so offhand. And I actually knew who the guys were. So I thought, this isn't going to finish that well. And he said, how would you like to pay? And he gave him a card. Now, these are the days when the gold American Express card was the card. It virtually just come out. And Ronnie put his glasses on and he goes, I can't read this. I can't read this. Stephen, come here. What does it say? Because I've got to phone up for authorisation. What does it say? I said, it says H.M. King Constantine of Greece. And he taunted them he treated them so badly.
That wouldn't bother him anyway.
No, that didn't bother him.
Didn't bother him at all.
True story.
True,
He
everything.
treated everyone so badly. But,
He treated everyone like that.
Have things changed much?
oh, massively. Massively. Now we've got the internet. You remember when we
Get these
first
YouTube
started,
people.
we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have gigabytes.
Were you still steaming over for the trunk shows?
I didn't start doing trunk shows till I joined Tommy Nutter, and that was
In the 70s.
that was in economy then.
Jetson age.
On a Freddie Laker, someone came in with his Freddie Laker tickets once. And he's like, I got my first tickets to America, and Freddie Laker went bust that morning. But yeah, most of my stories really are from the Tommy Nutter days, because we used to get so many sort of mega stars, so to speak. I mean, Elton John used to come in regularly and he would order masses, and then 2 days later, John Reid would come in and order the same because he wanted to be the same as Tommy Nutter. But, keeping them there for the fittings was always, because they never had 2 minutes for the fittings. I mean, Mick Jagger came once with Jerry Hall, tried his suits on, tried to show her, but she weren't really interested at all in him. But even, we did the Batman film when Jack Nicholson played the Joker. Mm-hmm. It wasn't designed by Tommy, it was designed by Bob Ringwood, and I made the stuff for it. But it was the labels all have Tommy Nutter on the label. So let's go out to LA, see Jack Nicholson, which was great really. Went to his house, and you walk in, he just said, help yourself, because there was obviously a load of us. I mean, I was just doing the fitting, and the hairdresser was there going through the colours for the hair. The guy who made the outfit for the Batman was with us, although it had nothing to do with Jack Nicholson. He said, help yourself, we're going in to do the fittings, and he was really good about it. He got into the part massively there and then, because he was obviously working into the part. And then when he come back to London, he'd put a bit of weight on. He said, I haven't put any weight on, have I? No, of course not.
Of course not.
Yeah.
The fabric shrunk.
Exactly.
You sent it to the
out.
wrong presser.
Yeah, we just let everything out and didn't tell him. It was so good then, because we used to do so many of these things. I mean, George Benson came in one day and I didn't recognise George Benson, and Tommy was killing himself laughing. The salesmen were out, and he's out in the back, and he wanted these waistcoats, and they were quite fancy. We used to do a lot of these fancy waistcoats, and I just said to him, are you on the stage or in the music game or something? Because these fans.
Yeah.
Then he gave me his card and I looked at it, and Tommy's absolutely killing himself laughing out the back. Realised what I'd done at that stage. But
I did that with Kanye West in Norton's, when we were in Norton's. This guy comes in, looking around, having a look around, and he said, how much is this, how much is that? I didn't know who he was. I was very polite, my normal demeanour.
Normal self?
Yes, and I was quite good, but I hadn't a clue who he was, not a clue. And then Patrick Grant, who I was with at the time in Norton, he said, that's Kanye West.
you still didn't know who was
Oh. And when I went home and I said to my son, who must have been about 16, 17 then, I said, Kanye West came in. Mm-hmm. I said, I didn't know who he was. He said, you didn't know who Kanye West was?
I mean, I guess at some point you can't keep track of all the celebrities, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right?
The classic one there was when Maureen was alive. My wife used to work with us at Huntsman, and we said, oh, Duke of Kent's coming in. So, what does he look like? I said, I had to explain, he's got a beard. What does he look like? I said, well, it looks like Uncle Albert from Only Fools and Horses. So he came in and she said, can I help you, sir? He said, Kent. So, okay, Mr. Kent, I'll just go and get it. And then we had Charlie Watts there, him there, and a banker the other side. I think you're making some shirts for him now. He's got a title now, hasn't he?
I can't, who?
The tall guy.
I can't remember. Oh, yeah, then.
One tall guy.
He was standing, he said, you couldn't go anywhere where you see a member of the royal family and a pop star
It was,
next
it
to
was
a
a different
banker.
world then.
But you can do it as your tailors. It's happened
do it
here.
as your
I mean,
tailors.
I've been in here with.
Yeah, you can do it.
Not,
It's amazing.
Not
you know.
Charles,
Yeah.
not His Majesty, but
I had one beautiful girl came in, and I reckon I couldn't put the name to it, but she gave me her card. She bought 2 dressing gowns, said, I'm at Claridge's, can you send them up? I said, certainly. Farrah Fawcett Majors. And I had
so
to
you hand
phone
delivered.
up. I had to phone up, and I phoned up.
So you told her you needed a fitting?
And they said, what's the name on the card? I said, it says Farrah Fawcett Majors. They said, you're having a laugh, aren't you? I said, no, it's really Farrah Fawcett Majors. They didn't believe me on the other side.
Yeah, we still don't believe you.
Yeah.
It's in your mind.
Well,
Figment.
she was very polite. She said, if I wasn't with Ryan, but there you go.
I still wouldn't be with you.
Yeah.
I'll tell your wife. Tell his wife.
Yep. It's on camera. Is the making that different today? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Much
is it
the cloths.
better? Or
Well,
have we
yeah, it
lost
is actually.
the,
It's much better. No, because the cloths have become much more difficult to make. So you get these super, super fine fabrics now, which are, you look at Suyamba's.
She's shaking her head.
It's a 9-10 ounce
man.
flannel. You would never have got a 9-10 ounce flannel. It's a Fox's
Too
flannel.
light.
They
It
would
would have
never
been
have done that.
It would have been heavier.
It's got to be bulletproof at least back in the day.
They were. Well, yeah, I was looking at some suits the other day from the early 90s, which is not that long ago, and they were just so hard, so heavy. But people used to wear heavy suits, but people used to have a full wardrobe in those days, so they would have the summer, the winter, the autumn, the spring, all different outfits, different overcoats for different occasions, obviously a morning suit, dinner suit, double-breasted and single-breasted. Those sort of days have gone now.
And everything wasn't as, you didn't have centralized heating, quite to the same extent you have today.
Well, there's still a lot of people don't have central heating. I mean, one of my clients from Palm Beach was in last week, and he was staying with a friend in Wiltshire last weekend, and he phoned him up and said, we'll be there. What do I need? He said, you'll need a jumper and a puffer coat because it's freezing here. Now we're in June. So it still gets quite cold in some places, but I think the technology garments now are very, very lightweight with those puffer jackets. So that.
Which you make? I mean, I've seen
Yeah,
you
we
make
make.
a puffer
We've got one
jacket.
here, haven't we? Well, it's not a puffer jacket, but it's got internal lining. And this is for instead of an overcoat, for instance. Well, he's got overcoats as well, but on a more casual thing, so he can wear it. This is to wear in New York.
Yeah.
The variety of stuff, I think, is so much more. There's so much more to choose from now. Shirt-wise, there's so much more to choose from.
But the cloths are so much finer now, even your shirting.
Shirting
All right, you
now.
what did you have, voiles?
Well, you
A
had
lot of people had
voile.
didn't they?
Voile used to be very popular in the 60s, and they used to double front it, which was putting another shirt behind the fronts of the shirts. And I never understood why, because it made it hotter, obviously, because you had two fabrics together. But they used to do it because they wouldn't show their body hairs.
Yeah. I mean, Samba, what do you think of it? Again, here you are, you're learning from, this inherited tradition, right? That's been passed down. Garments were done differently, they evolve. I mean, as you look to the future of tailoring, do you see it as an exciting moment, where, you look at it as 10 or 15 years ago, people would say it's a dying trade. Now you look at this workroom, you look at Terry's boards, stuff scattered everywhere. You could say that you could say that it's boom time.
No. My board is fine.
She's the messiest person in the world.
No, I'm not.
Hers is the only board that's clean right
Do you
now.
see? Do you see?
Tidied it up this morning.
Organised.
She threw it all over a
Artistic license, that was.
I mean, Molly, tell them what she's like.
Molly, don't.
I'm not getting involved.
Well, we see her in this video going,
Shaking your head in the background. I think it's throughout the year, each cloth merchants bring out new cloth, which is always exciting. There's this lovely wool silk linen mix that we're using a lot these
You're getting
days.
shares in this company. I think you are.
Or like even the foxes have got the wider chalk stripe, which we haven't seen for ages, especially at this weight. I think that's what keeps it interesting, is the just the variety of cloth, and then even customers' tastes are changing. Like now we're doing proper pleated trousers, people are doing more double-breasted, like even more striped suits. So it's really interesting to see how that's developing, and people are going back to, I guess, old school styles.
Yeah, but going forward, I mean, I'm 68, Stephen's 168.
Yeah.
So...
7.
Ancient.
7, sorry. Going forward with the company, it's going to be Suyamba, Molly and Max are going to be the ones who are going to be taking the company to the next level.
Yeah.
The dump.
Yeah.
All right. Denim for everyone.
You know, it seems like it's on the rise. I mean, I see a lot of activity and a lot of interest. And, you know, I see a trade
We're
that is...
noticing a lot more interest in tailoring.
Much more dynamic than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, from the trade side of things, right? I mean, you've got, you know, young, really talented tailors coming into the business, like Suyamba, Molly. And then you've got, of course, you know, the customers that, you know, are increasingly interested in having things like this jacket made.
Yeah, it's so diverse now. There's so many different styles we're making. There's no such thing. I mean, there's a robe behind you. It's for a House of Lords robe we're making at the moment. That red thing. You know, it's one thing. We'll just put our hand to anything, and it's...
That's how it's always been done.
Yeah, it's quite easy to do, really.
It's cloth, and the thing is that people come up with their own ideas as well, and the internet's helped with that as well. Because
For better or worse.
We've noticed with, you know, from the YouTube videos, we've noticed the people who are coming in seem to know us, but they were always a little bit intimidated before, you know, they don't know where to go, who to go to, because it's all, you know, it's very different. How you walk into a shop, you're spending a lot of money. How would you don't know what you're going to get.
some houses years ago used to look down at you. They really did.
Yeah, you go back, you're talking about that, you know, go back to the Anderson Shepherd, and it was before I joined the trade. I joined in 71 when there weren't a great, it was in the doldrums then. Business wasn't brilliant in those days. But previous to that, going back to the 50s and 60s, you had to get an introduction to go into tailor shop. You had to get an introduction to go to Hawes and Curtis or Kilgore, French and Stanbury. You couldn't just walk in off the street and order a suit.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, most of our business, even now, is all recommendations from other customers or customers' sons and grandsons.
Yeah, it's very,
And even
it's a
granddaughters now.
It's a continuous knock-on trade. And as long as you build up your core business, you're going to get repeats.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible journey for myself, and I think getting to know all of you, you know, at least in a small way, is part of the, you know, part of what makes the bespoke experience so rich. I mean, not only do you get fantastic clothes that fit great and have durability and longevity to it, right? And there's an element of craft as well as appreciating the incredible work that goes into this. But the process itself inherently develops relationships. Right?
Yeah, I think we all love the trade as well. I think you have to love the trade, otherwise I don't think you can do it.
You would go mad, yeah.
It becomes second nature to you to deal with. Sometimes when we first came into the trade, it would probably we were a bit naive, and obviously we were a bit naive, but maybe a bit of trepidation dealing with people, sometimes because they were famous or you've heard of them and everything. Now you're able to talk to anyone, you can converse properly, and you can have a rapport with people. That's made a massive difference to people's confidence.
Yeah.
People who work in the trade.
Interesting.
Also doing lots more ladies tailoring now too, aren't we? So yeah,
We seem to be, don't we? Yeah. Now we've got a woman working here, Molly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Terry.
It's a long week, isn't it?
You put some extra pins in his trousers
don't
tomorrow.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Already
Got some
done.
hair cloth in his trousers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, there we go.
We did that on Ronnie Waite.
Yes, yeah. He never noticed as well.
Used to wear his crutch right down here.
So you put hair cloth in. Yeah.
Well, I think he upset us once, didn't he?
There
Don't
we go.
upset us.
Don't upset your tailor
No.
or your shoemaker.
Yeah, honestly, probably worse.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you for sharing some of these stories,
No,
and
thank you
of
for
course,
picking
you know,
us.
for the generosity of kind of opening the doors and allowing us to peek into this incredible world. It's you know, by virtue of your generosity of time that we're able to sit down and have this conversation and to share that with so many people.
Oh no, we're
So-
going to bill you for this.
Yeah. Well, good. Good. We'll put it to the subscribers of the YouTube channel. You know, they're very generous, that lot. You know.